Only the Strong Survive by eckoKitten. Thank you for coming in, Miss Warren. I promise, I'll try to make this quick. Are you okay with me recording this? It is just for my notes, it's easier. No problem. He cleared his throat. Okay, let's get started. Your father believed there were shadows after him. This has all been detailed in the files you have. I don't really see the point in going over what you already know. Yes, I have read all the reports, but I still think it would be helpful if I could get it directly from you, in your own words. She sighed, and the creak of the chair could be heard. Can I smoke? I know it's horrible, but it helps my nerves. Sorry. It's a no-smoking building. But I promise we will make it quick. It wasn't really shadows. Everyone gets that part wrong. Not shadows? You know how some animals can see ultraviolet light, or different colors of the spectrum, or whatever? He thought it was like that. The monsters were always there. Humans just were unable to see them. They existed on some other spectrum. See, that's helpful. And when did this all begin? After your mother died? How old were you then? I was about to turn 3. Mary was 8, and Kevin had just turned 10 when our mother died. I was too young to really understand. I only knew what my father told us, and he said the monsters had killed her. Killed her and ate her up. But according to police reports, at the time, she was attacked by a mugger while jogging early that morning. She was... are you okay with me going into detail? Yes, I've now heard it all before. All right. The police report states that according to security cameras and evidence at the scene, they believe while she was jogging that early June morning, she was attacked from behind. He pulled her into the bushes, where he raped her and mutilated her body before leaving her to bleed out and die. She was discovered that afternoon by a family walking their dog. A few possible suspects were brought in for questioning, but no one was ever charged. I didn't really have a chance to know my mom. I was so young at the time. I only really have fading memories of her. But I think I remember her being very kind and beautiful. I'm so sorry, Miss Warren. She didn't deserve that death. Not that anyone really does. It must have been very difficult for your family. And that's when your father began talking about monsters? Guess so. I never remember him talking about them before that. But again, I was young. Most of my memories of that time are hazy at best. Do you remember much from when you were 3? No. I understand. Just try to share what you know, if you can. I think he tried caring for us the best he was able in that state. I don't think I was aware until much later. He had stopped going to work. Stopped sending Mary and Kevin to school. Mary and Kevin pretty much kept things going around the house. They fed me and put me to bed. They were too young for that responsibility. I found out that CPS got involved. We were likely going to be taken away. And that's why he moved you all? I'd assume so. He told us we had to go hide from the monsters. He felt they preferred to congregate in the city around humans, but there were fewer in the natural wild. So he took you to live in the woods. Yes, we were going camping. It was fun at first. Dad seemed more relaxed. I remember we had marshmallows and hot dogs, and he read to us around the fire until we fell asleep. How was your father normally? There were good days and bad. He could be an angry and strict man. He wanted us to be safe. He would repeat it daily, almost like a prayer. Only the strong survive. He made us repeat it back. If we were slow or tired or complained of being hungry, he would yell it at us. He would threaten to leave us behind and let the monsters eat us. He said Mom was weak and that's why they got her, and we would be next if we didn't learn to be strong. That sounds rough. You were just children. Yes, it often was. Maybe harder on Kevin and Mary, since they were older and had to adjust more. But they always helped me. If I cried because I was hungry, they would each give me a share of their rations. And Dad wasn't always cruel. I think in the end he really just wanted to protect us. There were good times too. Fun Dad memories of him laughing and playing with us. It wasn't all bad. Of course. Can we go over what happened to Kevin? I was 8 then, Mary 13, and Kevin 15. Life had become routine by then, living in the woods, hunting, fishing, moving constantly. Maybe we had just become used to it all. That night, Dad woke us up saying the monsters had found us. We had to run. He wanted us to leave everything and just literally run. Kevin said no. He called Dad crazy and they began shouting back and forth. He said he had had enough of all this and wasn't going to lose all of our few belongings because he was a nut job seeing monsters in the shadows. He said the monsters weren't real. Dad called him weak before punishing him hard. Kevin fell and didn't get up. Mary was crying. Dad slapped her and grabbed us and we ran. We left Kevin there. So Kevin didn't believe in the monsters. Did Mary and you? I am not sure what they believed. No one had ever said anything about them not being real before that moment. I was young. My dad said they were real. Why wouldn't I believe him? It's all I had known. A truth presented to me. They teach children about other countries and planets, things we may have never seen or will ever see, and we believe it because adults tell us it is so. Is it any different? Yes. I mean, no. I mean, it is completely understandable. Of course you would believe and trust your father. We ran for a long time, until morning. Then Dad left us to go check if we had been followed. He never came back. This is when hikers discovered Kevin's body, and as the rangers could tell other children had been at the campsite, they began a search, and found you and Mary 2 days later. You were both in very bad shape. Yes, you already know Mary was sick and died later in the hospital. We hadn't moved from the spot Dad had left us. We hadn't brought anything with us and we were just wearing nightshirts. It was cold and we were so hungry and thirsty, but we were afraid. We didn't know where the monsters were or where Dad or Kevin were, so we sat there crying until the rescuers had found us. I'm truly sorry, Miss Warren. They never found your father. No, they haven't. He is strong, though. They said he killed Kevin, that he had been stabbed multiple times. That's what they said. After your lengthy hospital stay, you were adopted by a cousin of your mother's, right? Yes. Caitlin was very kind. She and her husband had 3 daughters, and they accepted me fully as part of the family. Good. I'm glad you had them. I just have one more question, if you don't mind. Yes. Did your father say he could see the monsters? Nothing in any of the reports said anything about it. The strong can see them. They look like pure nightmare. That's what you really want to know, right? Of course you can't see them, but you believe, don't you? It is beyond words. They are not light or shadows or solid matter or gas. They are nothing you can even begin to imagine. You perhaps sense movement out of the corner of your eye and look, but nothing is there. They just are a wisp of your mind, just watching and waiting. But you don't need to see them. You can feel them right there behind your shoulder. If they have breath, it would be hot on the back of your neck, and you feel your skin react. Goosebumps, and your hair stands on end. That feeling in the pit of your stomach flexes and cries out for you to run, because they are watching and you are not strong. You are not strong enough to survive. The tape ends with screaming, nearly 10 full minutes of screaming. They found Evan dead in the small office he kept. I've seen the crime scene photos, and nothing could prepare me for that horror. So much blood. Somehow he still sat in his chair. No restraints were used. A pencil stuck through his right eye, his heart torn out and sitting in the middle of the table next to the small recorder. I felt pangs of guilt, as while the story had been his idea, I encouraged him to follow it, and even to reach out to Miss Warren when she had declined all the other interviews. I wasn't sure why she had said yes to Evan. He told me that her case wasn't unique, and that there were others too. His notes were all missing. I never got details. Evan was a good writer, and I trusted his gut to find a good story. The police believe Miss Warren is guilty of doing this, though they can't find her. I guess the crime scene was remarkably clean, and there was no trace of another person, like no blood splatter spots that showed somewhere else there. He had cameras outside his office. They showed only her enter and leave. She seemed to leave far too quickly to have committed the murder and cleaned up. She also had no blood on her when she left. It is strange, for sure. Yet the police are not interested in looking for anyone else. Not that I believe a light monster did this. The police believe that Miss Warren was as troubled as her father, and Evan, going into detail about her mother and siblings' deaths, may have just triggered her. Apparently, recently, her adopted family had tragedy hit as well. A drunk driver hit their car, and her husband and kids were killed. Months later, Caitlin committed suicide. These events likely fed into her fear of monsters causing death of her family members. Maybe this was why she accepted the interview after all this time. I'm not sure what this poor girl went through, but I can't help but feel a chill when I think I see something out of the corner of my eye.